All right, so at this point, it feels like every week we're hearing about another massive game announcement, another remake, or another project that suddenly has everyone talking. And honestly, it's getting hard to keep track of which upcoming games are actually worth paying attention to. So in this video, we're just going to go through 32 upcoming games that the entire gaming community already knows are in the conversation. No overhyping, no pretending these are hidden gems. These are the games people are genuinely excited about, the ones we keep seeing in timelines, forums, and late-night group chats. Some of them are obvious heavy hitters, some look promising in a weird way, and some are sequels or reboots we've been waiting for forever. So sit back, relax, and let's just talk about all the big titles everyone's already keeping an eye on. We all know Marvel's Wolverine is on the way, and honestly, it's one of those projects where the studio's reputation alone sets the bar. Insomniac has already proven with Spider-Man that they can handle superheroes with fluid gameplay and cinematic storytelling, but Wolverine is a very different beast. The teaser in Madripoor gave us a glimpse of the darker, grittier tone, and that's exactly what fans want. Logan isn't about swinging through skylines, he's about raw claws, stealth, and brutal combat. Personally, I think the challenge here is balancing his feral rage with the emotional depth that makes him such a compelling character. Everyone expects visceral action, but if they can also deliver a story that digs into identity and redemption, this could easily become the definitive Wolverine game. With a fall 2026 release window, it feels like the wait is long, but the anticipation is already massive.
Because I hate no hero.
Capcom's Resident Evil Requiem has been the talk of survival horror fans for months, and it's easy to see why. We're heading back to Raccoon City, which already sets the stage for nostalgia, but this time through the eyes of Grace Ashcroft, an FBI agent and daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft. That family connection adds a personal layer to the horror, and I think it's a smart move to anchor the story and legacy while still pushing forward. Everyone's aware Capcom is aiming for a scale similar to RE4 Remake, which means big set pieces, but what excites me more is the promise of psychological dread. Resident Evil has always been strongest when it blends claustrophobic tension with cinematic spectacle, and Requiem looks poised to do just that. Personally, I'm curious how they'll weave in cameos from past characters without letting nostalgia overshadow Grace's arc. With its February 27th, 2026 release, this feels like the next big chapter in redefining survival horror. GTA 6 is probably the most talked about game in the world right now, and for good reason. Rockstar is taking us back to Vice City, or rather, Leonida, their Florida-inspired setting, and introducing dual protagonists, Lucia and Jason. Everyone's seen the trailers, the neon nightlife, chaotic heists, swamps, highways, and beaches, and it's clear this is Rockstar's most ambitious open world yet. Personally, I think the Bonnie and Clyde dynamic between the leads is a brilliant narrative choice. It gives the story intimacy while still allowing for the sprawling chaos GTA is known for. What excites me most is the promise of evolving NPC behaviors and dynamic systems that make the world feel alive in ways we haven't seen before. Rockstar has always been about satire and cultural commentary, and if they nail that balance again, GTA 6 won't just be a crime saga, it'll be a reflection of modern society. Everyone knows The Witcher 4 is coming, and while it's not expected in 2026, it's already one of the most anticipated RPGs. CD Projekt Red is shifting the spotlight from Geralt to Ciri, and honestly, that feels like the right move. She's one of the most layered characters in the lore, and giving her the lead opens up new storytelling possibilities. The game is set in Kovir, a kingdom rich with political intrigue and magical danger, and powered by Unreal Engine 5, which promises breathtaking visuals and immersive environments. Personally, I think the big question is how they'll balance Ciri's Elder Blood powers with the grounded monster hunting gameplay that defines the series. CDPR has promised a trilogy delivered within 6 years, which is ambitious, but if they can pull it off, this could be the rebirth of Witcher as a modern fantasy epic. Even without a release date, the hype is already massive, and fans are ready for the next saga. 007. First Light is one of those games where everyone immediately said, yes, IO Interactive is the perfect fit. Their work on Hitman proved they understand stealth, improvisation, and cinematic flair, and now they're applying that to James Bond. What makes this one stand out is the origin story angle. We're meeting Bond before the license to kill, which gives IO freedom to explore a more vulnerable human side of the character. Personally, I think that's fascinating because it's less about gadgets and more about identity. The Cold War backdrop adds weight, and the Glacier engine ensures missions will feel both stylish and tense. Everyone's expecting a mix of infiltration, espionage, and moral choices, and if IO nails that balance, this could be the most authentic Bond game yet. With its March 27, 2026 release across PS5, Xbox Series PC, and Switch 2, it's already shaping up as a must-play for fans of stealth and spy thrillers.
James. Lately, headhunting.
We all know the Blood of Dawnwalker is shaping up to be one of the most intriguing dark fantasy RPGs on the horizon. Rebel Wolves, founded by former Witcher devs, is crafting this tale set in 14th century Southeast Europe, and the concept of playing as Cohen, a human-vampire hybrid, already has fans buzzing. Everyone's seen the early reveals, the Gothic castles, the eerie forests, and it's clear this game is leaning heavily into atmosphere. Personally, I think the day-night duality mechanic could be a real game changer, letting players experience both sides of Cohen's nature. It feels like a spiritual successor to Witcher in tone, but with its own identity rooted in vampire lore. With Bandai Namco publishing and a 2026 release window, this is one of those titles that feels destined to be talked about not just for its combat, but for the emotional weight of its story.
Out there, watching, seeping into you, growing.
Black Myth Zhong is the follow-up to Black Myth Wukong, and while details are still scarce, the announcement alone has stirred excitement. Zhong, the demon-quelling hero of Chinese folklore, is a natural fit for Game Science's vision of mythic action RPGs. We've all seen how Wukong raised the bar for Chinese-developed games, and personally, I think Zhong could push that even further with darker, more supernatural themes. The idea of battling demons with a hero known for exorcism feels like a perfect contrast to Wukong's trickster energy. Even though we don't have a release date yet, the expectation is clear. Game Science is building a franchise that blends cultural authenticity with cutting-edge visuals. Everyone's talking about it because it's not just another sequel, it's a chance to expand an entire mythological universe. Forza Horizon 6 is one of those games where everyone already knows the setting, Japan, and that alone has fans hyped. Playground Games is taking the Horizon Festival to Tokyo and beyond, and honestly, it feels like the perfect choice. We've all seen the speculation about neon-lit city streets, winding mountain roads, and cherry blossom highways, and it's hard not to imagine how stunning that will look on next-gen hardware. Personally, I think the mix of urban racing and countryside drifting could make this the most diverse Horizon yet. Everyone's talking about how authentic the soundscapes and cultural details might be, and if Playground nails that, this could be the definitive racing playground. With a 2026 release window and Game Pass availability, it's less about whether people will play it and more about how many hours they'll lose exploring every corner of Japan. We all know Guerrilla and NCSoft are teaming up for Horizon Steel Frontiers, and the idea of turning the Horizon universe into a full MMORPG has everyone talking. Announced at G-Star 2025, this project is aiming for PC and mobile with cross-platform play, and it's clearly designed to expand Aloy's world into something massive. Personally, I think the Monster Hunter-inspired hunting mechanics could be a great fit. Imagine teaming up with friends to take down Thunderjaws in large-scale raids. Everyone's aware this isn't a direct sequel to Forbidden West, but rather a new way to experience the Horizon setting, and that's what makes it exciting. If NCS Soft can deliver advanced MMO systems while keeping Guerrilla's visual polish, this could be one of the most talked about online RPGs of the decade. Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy is Asobo's next chapter, and even though it's technically a prequel, everyone's buzzing about it. Set 15 years before Requiem, the game introduces Sophia as the protagonist and explores new myths like the Minotaur's Island. Personally, I think this is a smart move. Rather than repeating the rat swarm mechanics, Asobo is leaning into fresh stealth action ideas while keeping the emotional storytelling intact. Everyone's talking about how this could expand the Plague Tale universe without feeling repetitive, and the trailers already show a mix of haunting landscapes and tense encounters. With a 2026 release across PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, plus Day 1 Game Pass, it feels like Asobo is cementing Plague Tale as a long-term franchise. For me, the appeal is seeing how they balance myth and history, creating a world that feels both grounded and fantastical. ArcheAge Chronicles is interesting because it's not just another MMO expansion, it's a full-action RPG set 50 years after the original. XL Games is taking the lore of Aurora and reimagining it for a new generation, with Kakao handling publishing. Everyone's seen the teasers about rediscovered lands and the Age of Pioneers, and it feels like a natural evolution of the franchise. Personally, I think the shift toward more action-oriented combat could be the right move, especially since the MMO space is crowded. Chronicles seems designed to keep the rich lore intact while making gameplay more accessible. Even though the release date is still TBA, the closed beta planned for late 2025 has already sparked conversations. For me, the appeal is seeing how they balance the massive world building of ArcheAge with tighter, story-driven action. Atomic Heart 2 is one of those sequels everyone saw coming after the first game's success, and Mundfish has already confirmed they're going bigger this time. The original was known for its surreal Soviet-inspired setting, but the sequel is expanding to a global scale with deeper RPG systems and more weapon customization. Personally, I think that's exactly what the series needs. Atomic Heart had incredible atmosphere, but sometimes felt limited in scope. Everyone's talking about how the sequel will refine combat while keeping that bizarre, uncanny vibe intact. The Steam page is still TBA, but the Summer Game Fest 2025 announcement made it clear this is a 2026 target. For me, the excitement lies in seeing how Mundfish balances the weirdness with tighter gameplay, turning Atomic Heart into a true franchise rather than a one-off curiosity. Beast of Reincarnation is Game Freak's big non-Pokemon project, and that alone makes it fascinating. Set in post-apocalyptic Japan in the year 4026, it follows Emma and her dog Ku in a brutal, combat-driven journey. Everyone's been talking about the one-person, one-dog dynamic, and personally, I think that could be the emotional hook that sets this apart. Game Freak is known for lighter fare, so seeing them tackle a dark, demanding action RPG is refreshing. The trailers show a mix of ruined cities and mythic beasts, and the combat looks far more technical than anything they've done before. With a 2026 release planned for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, this feels like Game Freak stepping into the AAA space in a bold way. For me, the appeal is watching how they balance emotional storytelling with punishing gameplay. Blood Message is one of those games that immediately caught attention because of its setting, the late Tang Dynasty during the Shazhou Uprising in 848 AD. Developed by NetEase and 24 Entertainment, it's a linear, single-player action-adventure, which already makes it stand out in a market full of open worlds. Everyone's seen the trailers highlighting the father-son journey across deserts, and personally, I think that emotional core could make this game special. The UE5 visuals give it a cinematic feel, and the historical backdrop adds authenticity. What excites me is how they're blending history with myth, creating a narrative that feels both grounded and epic. Even without a release date, people are talking about it because it's rare to see Chinese studios tackle such specific historical settings with this level of polish. For me, it's the emotional storytelling that makes Blood Message worth watching.
输赢成败，皆如沙上之塔。
Chrono Odyssey has been in development for a while, and it's finally starting to feel real. Chrono Studio and Kakao are building this as a next-gen MMORPG powered by Unreal Engine 5, and the big hook is time manipulation through the Chronotector. Everyone's seen the gameplay reveals showing seamless open-world exploration and Souls-like inspired combat, and personally I think that blend could be the key to standing out in the crowded MMO space. The idea of rewinding or altering time mid-battle adds a unique tactical layer, and the class system looks deep enough to keep players invested. Even though the release date is still TBA, the hype is strong because it feels like one of the few MMOs pushing genuinely new mechanics. For me, the excitement is seeing how they balance that innovation with the social cooperative play that defines the genre. Everyone's been talking about Crimson Desert for years now, and it finally feels like it's almost here. Pearl Abyss is taking everything they learned from Black Desert and channeling it into a massive single-player action adventure set in the war-torn land of Pywell. We all know Cliff is the protagonist, and the trailers have shown everything from dragon battles to mech-like contraptions, which is wild for a medieval fantasy setting. Personally, I think that mix of grounded swordplay with over-the-top spectacle could make this one stand out. It's scheduled for March 19th, 2026, and the buzz is huge because it's not just another MMO, it's a cinematic sandbox with a strong narrative. For me, the appeal is seeing how Pearl Abyss balances their trademark visual polish with a tighter, story-driven experience.
Remember who you are, and let it guide your path.
Directive 8020 is the next entry in the Dark Pictures anthology, and it's already got horror fans buzzing. Supermassive is taking the series into sci-fi territory this time with a crew stranded on Tau Ceti F after their ship, the Cassiopeia, crashes. Everyone's seen the teasers about alien imposters and trust mechanics, and personally, I think the Turning Points Rewind feature could be a clever way to add replayability. The series has always thrived on branching narratives and character deaths, and Directive 8020 looks like it's doubling down on that. With a release window in the first half of 2026, it's one of those games where we all know what to expect. Tense choices, cinematic horror, but the sci-fi setting makes it feel fresh. For me, the excitement is seeing how they blend paranoia with survival horror in a way that feels both familiar and new.
About this substance that he's letting on?
You can't take any chances with him.
It can manipulate its...
Fable is coming back, and honestly, it feels like a long overdue revival. Playground Games is using their Forza Tech engine to rebuild Albion from the ground up, and the early glimpses show a whimsical, distinctly British tone that fans have missed. We all know moral choice is at the heart of Fable, and personally, I think that's what makes this reboot so exciting. It's not just about flashy combat, it's about shaping the world through your actions. The trailers hint at humor, charm, and that fairy tale vibe that defined the originals. With a 2026 release planned for Xbox Series and PC, it's clear Microsoft wants this to be a flagship RPG. For me, the appeal is seeing how Playground balances nostalgia with modern design, giving us a Fable that feels both familiar and fresh.
The most exclusive club in all of Albion. Thought I'd get her out there, make the most of her gift.
Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly is getting a full remake, and horror fans couldn't be happier. The original was already considered one of the scariest games ever, and now Koei Tecmo is rebuilding it with modern visuals, audio, and mechanics. Everyone's seen the teasers about the revamped camera obscura system and the new hold hands with Mayu mechanic, which adds emotional weight to exploration. Personally, I think this remake has the potential to reintroduce Fatal Frame to a whole new audience while still terrifying longtime fans. Scheduled for March 11th to 12th, 2026 on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, it's one of those games where everyone knows what's coming. Ghosts, atmosphere, dread. But the modern presentation makes it feel fresh. For me, the excitement is seeing how they preserve the haunting tone while making it more immersive than ever.
Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly, Remake.
Gothic 1 Remake has been in the works for a while, and THQ Nordic with Alchemia Interactive is finally bringing it to life. The original Gothic was a cult classic, known for its harsh world and unforgiving systems, and now it's being rebuilt with modern visuals and mechanics. We all know the demo gave fans a taste of the updated combat, and personally, I think the challenge here is keeping the gritty feel intact while making it accessible to new players. The remake is scheduled for the first quarter of 2026, and the community has been vocal about wanting authenticity. For me, the appeal is seeing how they balance faithfulness with modernization, keeping the soul of Gothic alive while making it playable for today's audience. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet is Naughty Dog's big new IP, and it's already one of the most talked about projects in development. Set thousands of years in the future, it follows Jordan A. Munn, a bounty hunter caught in a galaxy-spanning conflict. Everyone's aware this is Naughty Dog's first original story since The Last of Us, and personally, I think that's what makes it so exciting. They're stepping away from grounded realism into full-blown sci-fi. The teasers suggest a mix of cinematic storytelling and action-adventure gameplay, which is exactly their strength. Even though the earliest release is reportedly 2027, people are already speculating about how it could redefine narrative-driven sci-fi games. For me, the appeal is seeing how Naughty Dog translates their emotional storytelling into a futuristic setting, making it feel human despite the scale. Longevity, Yin and Yang is a Chinese-developed action-adventure that blends Ming Dynasty aesthetics with mythic immortality themes. The gameplay reveal showed a mix of wuxia-inspired combat and Sekiro-like precision, and personally, I think that combination could make it stand out. We all know the indie scene in China has been pushing boundaries, and this feels like another step forward. Authentic cultural storytelling paired with cutting-edge Unreal Engine 5 visuals. The immortality myth gives it a philosophical edge, and the combat looks fast, fluid, and punishing. Even without a release date, it's already generating buzz because it feels fresh and distinct compared to Western fantasy titles. For me, the excitement is seeing how they balance myth, history, and gameplay into something that feels both artistic and challenging. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra is one of the most unique Marvel projects in gaming. Skydance New Media is putting players in the shoes of Captain America and a 1940s Black Panther set in occupied Paris during World War II. Everyone's seen the trailers highlighting espionage, resistance fighters, and Hydra's rise, and personally, I think this is a brilliant way to explore Marvel's history. It's not about flashy powers, it's about grit, teamwork, and espionage. The ensemble cast, including the Howling Commandos and Wakandan spies, adds depth to the narrative. With a 2026 release window, this feels like Marvel's attempt to tell a grounded, character-driven story in a gaming format. For me, the appeal is seeing how they balance superhero action with the weight of wartime storytelling.
From anyone!
I don't have time for this.
Neither do I.
Mortal Shell 2 is on the way, and Souls-like fans are already buzzing. The first game was a surprise hit known for its unique shell system, and the sequel looks to expand on that with deeper builds and more punishing combat. Personally, I think the challenge here is keeping the identity intact while refining the mechanics. Mortal Shell stood out because it wasn't just another Dark Souls clone, it had its own rhythm. Everyone's talking about the new Harbinger role teased in previews, and if they can deliver more variety in shells and weapons, this could be a strong evolution. With a 2026 release planned, it's one of those games where we all know what to expect. Brutal difficulty, haunting atmosphere, but the question is how far they'll push the formula. For me, the appeal is seeing Mortal Shell grow into a full-fledged franchise.
God. Let me lead her.
OD is Kojima's mysterious new project, and honestly, it's one of the most enigmatic games in development. Announced as a horror experience rather than a traditional game, it's being built in Unreal Engine 5 and published by Xbox Game Studios. Everyone's seen the cast announcements, Sophia Lillis, Hunter Schafer, Udo Kier, and the cryptic teasers about fear thresholds. Personally, I think Kojima is deliberately keeping us guessing, and that's part of the hype. We all know his style. Blending cinematic storytelling with experimental mechanics, and OD looks like it's pushing that even further. There's no release date yet, but the buzz is constant because people want to know what interactive fear really means. For me, the excitement is seeing how Kojima redefines horror, not just as something you play, but something you feel. Phantom Blade Zero has been making waves since its reveal, and it's easy to see why. S-Game is calling it Kung Fu Punk, which already sets it apart from the usual Souls-like crowd. Everyone's seen the trailers with lightning-fast martial arts combat, dark wuxia-inspired settings, and that haunting atmosphere. Personally, I think the speed of the combat is what makes this stand out. It's not just about patience and timing, it's about fluid combos and relentless aggression. The art direction feels like a mix of traditional Chinese aesthetics and punk grit, which is a bold choice. Even though the release window is still vague, likely around 2026 or later, people are already treating it as one of the most promising new action RPGs. For me, the excitement is seeing how they balance cinematic flair with deep, punishing gameplay. Pragmata has been delayed multiple times, but it's still one of Capcom's most intriguing projects. Set in a near-future sci-fi world, it follows Hugh and the android Diana as they navigate a lunar station filled with mysteries. We've all seen the teasers with hacking, shooting, and surreal imagery, and personally, I think this could be Capcom's attempt to create something as memorable as Death Stranding, but with their own twist. The lore around Lunam Ore and Luna Filament already has fans speculating, and the mix of action and puzzle solving looks promising. Even though the release date is still TBA, it's one of those games people keep talking about because it feels so different from Capcom's usual lineup. For me, the appeal is seeing how they merge emotional storytelling with futuristic gameplay mechanics.
Bypassing first and second firewalls, hooking control protocols. Initiating hack!
REANIMAL is coming from Tarsier Studios, the team behind Little Nightmares, and that alone has horror fans excited. This time, they're blending cinematic platforming with survival horror, and the brother-sister duo at the heart of the story adds emotional weight. Everyone's seen the demo with masks as thematic items, and personally, I think that symbolism could make the game stand out. It's not just about scares, it's about identity and survival. Scheduled for February 13th, 2026 on PS5, Xbox Series PC, and Switch 2, it's already shaping up to be one of the year's most talked about horror releases. For me, the appeal is seeing how Tarsier evolves their style, keeping the eerie, unsettling vibe of Little Nightmares while expanding into a more narrative-driven adventure.
Good night, and good luck to you all.
Saros is Housemarque's next big project, and it's being described as the spiritual successor to Returnal. This time, they're leaning into third-person action with persistent progression systems and new mechanics like the Soltari Shield. We've all seen the teasers about Carcosa, the strange new setting, and personally, I think it's exciting to see Housemarque double down on their mix of arcade intensity and roguelike depth. Scheduled for March 20th, 2026 as a PlayStation exclusive, it's already being positioned as one of Sony's flagship titles. For me, the appeal is seeing how they expand on Returnal's formula, keeping the fast-paced combat but adding more narrative weight and progression to keep players hooked.
But after every death, I always come back stronger.
Swords of Legends, formerly Gujian 4, is coming, and it's one of the most anticipated Chinese RPGs. Developed by Oregon Shanghai, it's a single-player action RPG built in Unreal Engine 5, with consoles and PC confirmed. Everyone's seen the trailers featuring C-Pan, the underworld enforcer, battling mythic horrors, and personally, I think the wide linear structure could make this game stand out. It's not just another open world, it's designed to feel cinematic while still giving players freedom. The Gujian franchise already has a strong following, and this entry looks like it's pushing the boundaries with modern visuals and deeper combat. Even without a release date, people are talking about it because it represents the next step in bringing Chinese fantasy to a global audience. For me, the excitement is seeing how they balance cultural authenticity with accessible gameplay. Vindictus Defying Fate is Nexon's attempt to reimagine their long-running MMO as a premium Souls-like action RPG, and it's already caught the attention of fans who grew up with the original. Everyone's seen the Steam page and the dev logs showing off precision-based combat, where reading enemy attacks and countering at the right moment is key. Personally, I think this is a bold move. Vindictus was known for flashy, fast-paced online battles, but shifting to a slower, more deliberate style could give the franchise new life. The Celtic myth threads are still intact, which keeps that sense of identity, but the focus now is on immersion and challenge rather than grind. Even without a firm release date, people are talking about it because it feels like Nexon is finally stepping into the single-player action RPG space with confidence. For me, the appeal is seeing how they balance nostalgia with modern Souls-like design. Woochi the Wayfarer is Nexon Games' fantasy action-adventure set in Korea's Joseon era. It's rare to see a game lean so heavily into Korean cultural authenticity, and that alone makes it stand out. We all know the trailers showed Woochi traveling through mythic landscapes, blending folklore with cinematic combat, and personally, I think that mix of history and fantasy could resonate globally. The game is designed as a single-player adventure for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, and while there's no release date yet, the anticipation is strong because it feels fresh compared to the usual Western fantasy titles. Everyone's talking about how it could be Korea's answer to games like Ghost of Tsushima, but with its own identity rooted in local myth. For me, the excitement is seeing how Nexon balances cultural storytelling with gameplay that feels accessible and engaging for a worldwide audience. And that's a wrap on 32 upcoming games everyone's talking about. Some are massive sequels, some are wild new IPs, and some are remakes we've been waiting years for, but all of them are definitely worth keeping an eye on. Drop a comment and let me know which game you're most hyped for, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future gaming breakdowns.